So let's move to the VS Code, and our goal through this code or this project is to create a exact looking form like this. So we are going to write a code and we are going to create a page, a UI page, a web page exactly looking like this. So let's first create a new Angular project using ng new. Let's call it form example. Don't want routing and I want just simple CSS. It will take some time to install the packages. Let's keep it. All right, after installing the packages, let's move to the forms example. Let me clear this, and I can see that I have a node modules installed. So next thing I'm going to do is I want to create a one component. Let me get rid of the boilerplate code that is already added in my HTML file. So I'll just simply delete it, and I want to add one new component. So for that I'm using this extension, but you can use a command, but with the extension it's really easy. So I will just uh, create a new component. Let's call it user registration form. Hit enter, and there we go. I have the new component created. And what I will do is simply, so I will just add the selector that I copied. So just hit enter space. Yeah, so with this I have the selector added, and if I go to the local host, I don't know whether I have run the project. Let me run it again. Control C and just do an ng serve. And once my ng serve is complete, I can see that on my local host the application is running. Now let's write the code for the form. Before going to that, I will use one library that is Tailwind CSS. So Tailwind CSS I'm going to use for creating the input elements and adding the styles to it. If you don't know how to set it up, I have a separate video that you can watch, but though I will again tell you how you can do it. So let's install the Tailwind. Let me go to the project directory and I will install the npm tailwind npm install tailwind css. So meanwhile it installs, let me talk about the tailwind. So tailwind is a really good library. It allows you to define the css to your html, and that is also at age that you don't have to leave your html file. So there are ample of classes present into it to specify the margin, to specify the font color, background, anything you can specify with the help of it. So same we are going to use for this example. So I have my tailwind installed. So next thing I want to do is run this tailwind package, and for that I will use npxx. And in order to set up the tailwind you need to do an init command. So once I do an npx uh, tailwind init, I can see that in my project structure there is a new file tailwindconfig.js added. You need to do an additional change in this content array. You need to specify what kind of a files you want your tailwind to be supported. So in our case we are going to write the tailwind classes in the HTML, so that's why we provided the HTML, and JS is something that you need to provide because at the end the Angular artifacts are in the format of the JavaScript. So after that we need to add a few lines into our style.css file, which is present in our, if I just go to the app, yeah, there is a style.css. You need to add few lines into it. That lines are to import the Tailwind CSS libraries. So I will simply paste this import into my style CSS, and now I'm good with the Tailwind setup, and I can use the Tailwind classes uh, in my application basically. So we need to create a form which will look like this. So let's start to add the elements into it. First thing to remember, whenever you are dealing with the forms, you need to import a reactive form extension in your module file. So let's import that reactive forms module in our app module, so that whenever we'll use any form group or form control elements in our controller, it won't throw an error. to us. First thing I want to do is I just want to add a simple division box, and I want to show that division blocks in a light blue, and it should uh, consume the entire space of my page. So let's add a simple division. So remember, these classes that I'm adding here, these are coming from the Tailwind, and these are the classes that basically specify how I want to arrange the content. The height should be full, width should be full, and the background I want to keep a blue. The one I'm using here is I think 5 by 6, where I want to specify the height, that is 83%. So if I just do an I still need to add a content because I don't have anything yet. It's just like a structure that I created. So I want to add two boxes inside it, and same thing I did here. I specified the height and the width. So let me add a simple form, and that form basically I have specified a form group as a general info, and the reason that I see an error here because I have not defined that in my component TS yet. So first thing I will do is to create a form group. So I need to import the form builder, form group, and validators. Then I will create a form group object, general info form, because I want to make a UI which look like this. So I will create two forms. One is general information, second is contact details. This dot general info form, I have created the group of it. Then I need to make one on submit method that will be called, that will be invoked once I submit this form. This is the data that I will need for one of the fields, so ignore it for time being. And this is for the another form. So now coming to the fields of the form, you can see that I'm adding fields into my form, and I need a title, first name, last name, position, business code, and those things. Uh, these are the, if you see the syntax of it, you can see there are two inputs. First is represents the value that you want to bind to your element, and second is a validator. I'll come to the validator part in detail in coming minutes. Don't worry about the code. I have all the code that I wrote. I have pushed it to a Git repository on a GitHub, and that you will find the link to that Git repository you will find in the description of this video. So you can clone it, and then you can understand everything about how I implemented code. You can set it up on your local and run it. Code is given in the link below. Please refer the description. So let me switch this to the side view, and what I did is I created a simple box which I want to put it in center, and like the way I want to implement our form, which is looking like this. I created uh, two boxes here, and I have two forms, basically general information and the contact details, that I am going to write a code for here now. So in the general information, let's create a form first. So I created a form, and as you can see, the form group I have specified is a general information. So general info form, the variable which I created here in my component, same I'm referring, and this is where my reactive forms comes into a picture. With this object, it is able to understand that HTML, the form element needs to pick a data from the general info form object. Then I have a ng submit, and this is basically indicate whenever user will submit a form, which method it want to call. So in my case, I want to call on submit method, and in that I just simply want to console log the data that I accepted on the UI. So for that, I'm just using a general info form and value. Value is a property that basically tells the all the fields in the form, that just outputs the all the fields in the form, but you can access the single values of it using another method which is get. So you can use that to get a specific properties of the this reactive form. Then I have created this header which is looking like this here, and now I want to add a select box. So for that I have created a select tag, and I have given a form control name which basically coming from here, and as I was saying that I created a object of form a group, and inside that I have form controls. So this title I am referring here, and these are the classes for my Tailwind. One additional enhancement I did is inside that select box, I want to render the values, I want to render the options which are present in my TS. In the real scenarios, it actually can come from some API, and in that cases we need to bind the values. But for the just sake of this demonstration, I have put the title options here in the TS where I have value and the label, and this value this entries basically I want to attach, I want to bind it to the select box. So that's why I use a ng for as a structural directive, and inside that I have a let option of title option. So when I'll go to the UI, I can see that the title as a drop down is added, and I have the fields also listed. So I will write a more code to add a few more fields. So similarly, I'll add a first name. Then instead of the title, I'm giving the form control as the first name. Then these are the classes that I have added from the Tailwind. So I want width has to be full. The text of the label, sorry, the text inside the input box, I want to show it in the gray 700, which is a code for this particular color. Then I want to uh, I don't want outline, and I want only a border bottom. So this is because in our this form we just have one horizontal line below that basically that basically means there is only a border down below, there is only a bottom border, and there is no outline. So for that reason I am writing this line that focus outline is none and border bottom only. So likewise, I will add a code for other fields like last name and a few other. Then I have one more business area code, and I want to show you that how you can add a validators for it. So if you can see, there is some additional argument to these fields, which is validator. So this validator basically you can specify anything. So in these cases, I have specified that I want this field to be required, which means until and unless these fields are there, my button or I will not allow user to submit a form. And in case of business area code, I wrote a different validator where I'm saying that I want a minimum length of this field to be 3. And let's see if that is true or not. So we'll see that in a moment, but before that let me add other fields. So I have added a file input also, and that I will come a little in some time. So let's have a few more inputs here, and then I want to add one is form valid. I just want to show that one concept of if the form is valid or not. Then I have a submit button. Now let's go to the UI. So as you can see that I have the things added here, and I can select the values for this, and the UI is as I wanted, like I only wanted a border bottom. And you can see that I intentionally added this line over here which says that whether the form is valid or not, and it says the form is not valid because, and it currently says that it is false. So that is because I want to demonstrate the use of validators. So currently if you see in my TS, I put that I want all the fields to be required. So that means if there is no value for this field, or if it's not following any validators rule, that means my form is invalid. So currently I just have enter value for this title, and that's only value. So if I enter all the values, I'm just entering any dummy values here. Do this, and I think I have a file upload also that is also required. And if I add the file, now you can see that the is form valid has turned to true from the false. That is because I have entered all the values in the fields. And if I go back again and change any rules like this, in case of business area code, if I just enter input which is less than 3 characters, my form validity is again turning to false, and that is because in my validators I have specified this condition that for the business area code I want a minimum length of the 3, and when a length became less than 3, the validity turned to false. So this is what I was talking when I was explaining about the benefits of form, and this point that reactive form is a way of building form. It is based on the reactive programming principles. So the changes that are happening on your web page, they are your form is basically adapted. Coming back, so I will just add some data into it. I intentionally added this file input here, and that is because I wanted to demonstrate to you the usage of file. So in my case, I have added an additional, I went a step ahead, and it's not just like a file upload that I wanted to demonstrate, but additionally, I wanted to tell you or show you that how you can specify the custom type of files that you if you want to restrict the file upload. So in my case, I just wanted to allow user to upload spreadsheets and the CSV file. So that's where I have specified the accept only .csv, and this is the format for the spreadsheet or the XML, XLSS files in the Windows. And on the file, on the change of this file, I am calling a method which is on file change, and I'm passing this event. And like we do for the usual all the fields, I just pass the form control name as a file, which is basically this one in my general info form offset. And if I go below in my on file change, there I'm just accepting the event, and I'm just console logging the files that I have accepted there. If it is not able to find the CSV or the style sheet, it will show that no items match your search, because we strictly have specified that we want to accept only CSV and the spreadsheet. So whenever it will see those files, that time only it will allow you to choose the file. So if I click on this file, you can see immediately I have this console log here where it says that what is the name of the file. So this was the file I accepted, and if I want to see what is the size of it, what's exactly the content that I can access inside this object. So this is how uh, you can accept a file from the user, and then you can pass it to your server. There are a few other things that I wanted to demonstrate here, like the dirty, touch, invalid. These are the properties of every form control element, and if they are true, that means there is something wrong. Touch basically represents you have entered some value into it, and then dirty also represent if you have added something onto it, and invalid basically tells if your validator rules are pass or fail. Then you can see in this checkbox I have showed one checkbox where there is a terms and conditions selection, and the reason that is selected by default is in my value here I have passed it as a, like in the terms form control, I have said that the initial value I want it to be a true. So if I say a false, it will be unchecked this time. So yeah, you can do it for any fields, like if I want to bind some value, or let's say for the position I want to keep developer as a position always. So I can say that the developer value will be there, and the user can change it whatever they want it later. And similarly, we'll add a write section, which is another form. So I have created a object contact details form, and that you can find here in the contact details form. Similarly, I have added the properties, and so let's see here, and I can see the form is created, which is pretty much identical to what we wanted. But this was the intention of this video, to explain you about what is the Angular forms, how it works, and how you can create a Angular form on your UI page. So I hope you find this video useful, and thank you for watching.